Welcome back to Doc Shows You How. Today we're doing these light up comm panels. No laser etching needed, common tools to use defined materials. I want to say thank you. We are about to reach 400 subscribers. Anyway, we're going to get right to the table. Here we go. The piece in this video is these light up Rebel wall things. I don't know. I'm going to block the window there. So yeah, it looks pretty cool. And then here's one of my first prototypes that, it's just doesn't quite do as much. The plastic is a lot bigger. And that's one of the things I do here is I try things out a couple times here and figure out, okay, well, that didn't quite work, so let's move on. And then I'll make that video to show you what worked. So yeah, there's no laser etching here. This one's a little rough though because I was still refining the process for you folks. But yeah, I think we're getting pretty good there. And then with a figure in front there that is Legion scale, 28mm. So anyway, so we're gonna get right to it. Tape, painter's tape. You're going to need a few popsicle sticks and your light source. I'm using these little finger lights. Now you can usually find these in a pack of 4 different colors for a few bucks at your big box stores, your party stores, or because I do a lot of this kind of stuff, I bought a decent sized box of them and now I won't run out for a while. They don't last forever. Changing the batteries are a pain in the neck, but as far as for a quick little project, that gets you a nice little light source. So there's those. Then you're going to need some plastic. Now this I got, I think was a Walmart. It was $1. You can get something similar. It's actually much bigger at the Dollar Tree, and it's just an easy way to find thin acrylic. Of course, you can order acrylic cheap, but as far as just a project you can pick up easily. A little picture frame is a start in the right direction there. And then washers. Coins of various sizes would work as well. So we'll just kind of toss some of the coins in there that I've got. And then, so you're probably wondering why the coins? Well, we'll get to that. So first, you want to determine how much of this you're actually going to need for your build. Now, what I had found was the light, so I've got that finger light kind of hidden in here, that light doesn't go terribly far. So, I mean, here I've got it just, maybe if I flip this the other way, 3.5 inches. Maybe not quite 3.5 inches. You might drop that down to 3. The shorter it is, the more light is going to be in the area. So if we look at this piece, I'm going to go ahead and score that and snap that, and I will find a way to score this and snap that. And so now, like we said, 3 inches, 3.5 inches. So I'm going to save this big piece here. It was the long front piece. I'm going to save that for something later. This, it's another interesting little piece. Who knows, maybe that'll become some sort of sign on a building, something like that. So we're going to use this piece. And then I think that we're not going to use the whole thing. We don't need the whole thing, so it's only going to be just about half, maybe just a little bit more than half. And then, so one thing you can do here is score your line and then snap it. You don't have to cut all the way through. Alright, so there's your one piece, and so what we're going to do now is there's a little protective film. Remove that on one side and cover that side then with the tape. Alright, so what this is going to do is protect the rest of the surface as you etch in the detail. Now, the thing here is this is such that you don't have to go get it laser etched. You can do this freehand. And you're only putting in scores. You're not looking to cut through it. You're just scoring your detail through this. So before we start cutting on this, let's go ahead and draw something on there. Maybe a grid line, maybe some diagonal lines or some circles. So I'm going to go ahead and come up with some sort of little design there. Okay, simple little pattern. So when cutting that with your X-acto blade, a nice sharp blade is a good start. Don't push real hard, just enough to leave a scratch, just enough to cut in. And definitely for your straight edges, use a straight edge, right? Just trace that so you get a nice clean line. Now, the trick to get clean lines on that circle without it being laser etched or anything like that is what we need the washers for, or coins. If you have coins and not washers, definitely try that. But this is how I was able to do that as far as just tracing them in place there. And this is how you get a clean looking line etched in. So here's one I had done before where I used washers on this prototype, right? So that's what I did here. And just to kind of show you, let's move some of these out of the way and take this big honking boy. That's why I bought this, guys, to use it for this. I'll just line that back up with that line. And then just like this, just follow that metal edge. Just trace that. And again, not pushing real hard. You're not looking to cut through this. You're just looking to leave a mark. And after you've traced that a few times with the blade, and you feel like you've got a crevice starting, flip it over and use the back edge. It's still sharp, but now it's wide instead of an edge, right? And just kind of put it right up against that again and run it again. And what that does is it widens your cut just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this out. Just did. Now, after you remove the tape, you will need to use a cleaner, WD-40 Goo Gone, not acetone. That'll destroy this. But so there's that one, and here's one I had going before. This is my prototype. Now, one of the things here you have to decide is where you want your light source. So here's one of the things. So do you want it like in this corner? Do you want it in that corner? Because what you're going to need to do is actually make a little cut that will hold that piece so that the light is in line with the plastic so it spreads through all your little cuts. Now with that, you can either just put it on the edge there and have a weird piece of computer off to the side here like this, or you can cut it in really deep and then have a light source somewhat close to the center here. Now in the prototype that I think has been the most successful, which is this one, right? So I did have, let's get out of a shade. So I did have, actually, let's try this light off. A little bit. So it's in the middle. It lines up with the side there, and I think that's fairly successful. It spreads light through the whole thing pretty evenly. So we'll do one of these all the way in that far. I think probably the one that I had done before I will come all the way in the middle somehow on. So make that little cut where your piece is going to fit in, and same kind of thing as before. Score a number of times on the line that you want, and then because of how it's going this time, I would advise using a pair of pliers just to get that score to break without shattering the rest of your piece. Alright, and then there's one more little notch in here that I want to make so that that light actually fits in that much more. Just that much more. So the whole thing fits a little bit more flush. Up. So it did break right there, you saw that. No big deal. That whole bottom area is going to be covered to some degree though, so that's still okay. But now that does get the light into the whole thing. So now we need to build up, glue this in place. Let's start with gluing that in place. And then we'll build up a little bit around that to hide it. Now one thing I am going to do is I'm going to just barely scuff up this edge here and the top and just glue the whole thing into that piece. And there you go. So at this point we just dress up and hide the light a little bit more on the bottom. And on the ones I've done before, I kind of just do some foam core to kind of block out the whole shape. And one thing that I did find that helps a little bit is this top piece. So what that does is that actually casts a little bit of a shadow so that whatever room light is around, it helps create an area for the lights to show that you've scraped in there. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and break out some foam core and get a couple of strips cut, and then also some food grade packaging to do some of this detail and relief stuff with. Alright, so a little bit of foam core to kind of finish out the bottom part of the frame there. That helps it stand up pretty good. And this one, because there's some wonderful detail in the corner there, I decided to maybe do just a smaller piece of foam core. It lights up really well on camera there, but ultimately that's all going to be painted to black out all the light that's in this mechanism. So next, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go to making a frame. So I'm going to take some simple popsicle sticks. I'm going to frame the whole outside of that one. And then this one, it's really just these three sides because the bottom is done right. So kind of like that. Again, that's going to do two things here. Mostly it's going to be structure, but partially it is going to be this little bit of shade cast on that when it's on the table to help keep the light visible in there. So I'm going to go ahead and snip the round edge off here and start gluing them on side at a time. Boom, boom, boom. Nice and simple. So trimmed off the bottom flat, glued it on. Now I'm going to trim off there. So this way I'm making it exactly for the piece I'm making. I don't have to worry about measuring and cutting. So literally just going to grab the snips and go in there flush and cut it, and then just do the same thing around all sides. So there's both sides. So this side has got this round piece because of the light thing. I'm going to go ahead and leave a little bit of a round from the popsicle stick on that side. This will give me a place I can mount something in there to make that a little bit more interesting. And I'll trim the other side off flush, and I'm going to go ahead and get the other one to the similar state. Alright, so framed out, and then I also went ahead and added a little bit of pipe. You can hear this, a coffee stirrer and a toothpick there, and different toothpick, same coffee stirrer there. But so now that we have the framework on there, at this point there's really only two things before we move to paint. So I'll just turn those on real quick, get you a look. So those are looking pretty good. Pretty pleased with how those are turning out. So, like I said, two things here. So first off, we're going to go ahead and keep adding details. And as far as details that I like to add, I really like these small little zip ties. They give this weird little button looking thing, and in between some of these have little ridges because that's how the zip ties work. These are all things that grab paint really well, so I might add some along here or maybe along outside here. Maybe a bigger zip tie with the head down here to give a little bit more weight. And then of course some strips made from the food grade packaging cereal box, frozen pizza box, to just break up this space here. Once those details are added, then it's on to a base coat and all the painting steps here. So I'm not going to show you every little detail how I put it on there. We'll come back in a little bit with some additional details on these and get moving on to that next step. Alright, so a little bit of cardboard, a little wooden disc, various bits and doodads for greeblies and things to grab some paint. Like I said, I'm not going to show you every little step on that, but you can kind of get the idea on how to get that light source. And then same kind of thing over here. And then just keep testing as you go through. Make sure you don't glue that thing in the off position. I've done that. That sucks. And then, so this is obscuring the light source with that piece of foam core underneath there, then that cardboard, which also then kind of forces it to go out into the screen. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and paint this. There's a couple of things that you can do to protect the plastic in here. You can put more painter's tape on that. If you have a little bit of liquid latex, you can put that on there. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go, but either of those would work. Alright, so that option ended up being the tape. I figured it was most efficient. I can work it right up to the edge and with an X-acto blade, trim it right into the edge. So now I'm going to go put a nice coat of probably gray primer, I don't know, but a nice base coat to kind of pull all these different varying pieces together. And then from there it's weathering and dry brushing, which a lot of other YouTubers show you how to do that part. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all painted up, and we'll be right back. Alright, so here everything ended up. Just a little bit of detailing here and there. And there it is on. And in person, it doesn't bleed out so much in the clear spots. It's more defined and crisp in person. But for a on budget little piece of terrain to just be able to hide your guys behind, they're taller than your guys like this. That's a fun little project. And I'm just going to mention again. So here's my prototypes, and then here's the first one that was way too long. That light doesn't go very far there. That's when I discovered and realized that smaller is going to work here. So your bag of popsicle sticks, a couple bucks. Your lights, $3 for like 4, or you can get a better deal if you buy a bunch like I did. And then a bit of foam core. The plastic again, that was about $1 or so. You saw the one I started with on these two. It was already the right height, about 2 inches here, and I just cut it into those roughly 3-inch chunks there. So that's the build. Stay tuned for the glamour shots. If you like this kind of content, go ahead and subscribe and like this. And then I'm going to be doing another version of this that is inspired by the recent Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Stay tuned for that. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a great day.